We basically have a way of getting free pops, and this of course can get out of control very quickly. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that's right. This is ASpec once again with a wonderful little game that I've been playing for quite some time. Got a couple of thousand hours on this. It is of course Stellaris, and recently there was an update. It was called Federations, and oh boy, it added so many amazing things to the game. All the Federations, the Galactic community, but of course the Origins. And the Origins themselves are wonderful. It adds yet another new system into the game itself by making sure that you can have special abilities for your species as you start out. And this is of course wonderful. However, when it comes to Paradox games in general, they tend to have a very long life cycle. They tend to be developed over many years after launch, adding more and more expansions. And let's put it this way, the game sooner or later starts looking like mechanical spaghetti. And this basically means that there are systems in place that interact with other systems that is not necessarily intended. Let's put it that way. Intentions are good, but then players like me or those in the comments of my videos, thank you so much comments, basically say, hey, what if we take mechanic X and mix them up with mechanic Y, and then all sorts of shenanigans start to happen. Now, to me, Lithoids are probably some of the funnest species that you can play within the game. They are rock people. Who does not like rock people, especially when they are the rock riders? And one thing with Lithoids that can be a little bit annoying is, of course, their Lithoid base perk, which basically means that, well, you do not grow particularly fast because you have a pop growth speed modifier of -25. Of course, you can offset that in the game by using multiple technologies, but it basically means that you're not gonna grow particularly fast. Unless, of course, you start to mix in the aforementioned Origins, because we can add all sorts of fun things. However, we're going to take a quick look here at our traits, and particularly the last one on this list, which is the volatile excretions, which generates us motes per month. 0.1 mote per month per pop. Now, this may not seem important at first. You may think by yourself, man, is this going to be like an alloy thing or something like that? Oh, no. It will make sense later. But Lithoids themselves, they have that habitability plus 50%. They can basically live anywhere. And that right there, my friends, is going to be important. Origin-wise, of course, we are going to be playing with Calamitous Birth because we need that massive crater to give us additional homeworld districts and, of course, pops. Yes, pops. This is a pop exploit. So here's our start. It's pretty straightforward, I feel. There is our capital of Lithoids. It's, well, Unirok, the planet. The star is called Lithoids, of course. And as you can see, with the joys of Calamitous Birth, as we go into the planetary feature menu, we've got all of these buried Lithoids. But if we want to unearth them, it would cost us 1,000 minerals. That is a rather significant amount of minerals, and we definitely do not want to do anything like that. It's way too expensive. It's not practical. We don't want to deal with that. So we're going to need to bring this cost down, preferably to as low as possible. Now, there's a couple of things that we can do there. For instance, with the wonders of the motes that we are excreting, we can, for instance, use volatile land clearance. Now, normally in the game, you would not get access to this fairly early on because you would not be able to get motes particularly early. But considering we excrete the motes, it means that we can already buy them on the market at the start of the game. This means that we can lower the cost of those tile blockers by 25%. So hypothetically, if I would go ahead and buy a couple of these here motes and then would go into the volatile land, I just need one more mote. Let's get rid of this here. There we go. Maybe one of these. There we go. So now we got 42 motes, and then we hit volatile land clearance. That's cool. So let's quickly pop over towards the planet. As you can see, all of a sudden, no longer do our buried lithoids cost 1,000 minerals. No, right now they will cost 750. It will get more interesting though, because again, there's mechanics in this game that spaghetti all over the place and interact with this particular setup that probably should not be happening. Now we're just going to advance the clock forward a little bit. We got our first colony up and running. There is slamming, of course, lithoid crater. I think that's fairly straightforward. But also, we've done a couple of curious things, particularly if we go to our capital world and specifically our governor. You will see that this particular governor is an environmental engineer. An environmental engineer will reduce all clear blocker costs of that particular sector, i.e. where all the planets spawn, by 25%, which in addition to the original volatile land clearance means that we get a 50% bonus on reduction in this particular case. However, we can also go for the very first option for domination. Just get the very first one, it doesn't really matter. And then we get yet another clear blocker reduction cost of 33%. So what does this translate to? Well, if I activate the volatile land clearance right now and I go to my capital and I see all those buried lithoids, all of a sudden, instead of costing 1,000 minerals, I can get a free pop for 160 minerals. So it's not necessarily a free pop, but it's still 167 minerals. So I can just crank these out like mad. It's such a good deal, and I can use those minerals on building more space stations or selling stuff. But wait, it gets better. Now, as you may have noticed, there is a single ocean world over here. It's sitting right next to our capital world. There's already another planet in here, but because of the wonders of Calamitous birth, this planet is pretty useless to us. It's a size 12. We're never going to get a lot of use out of it. Look at that. All that food is disgusting. We're lithoids. We don't need any food. So instead of building another colony here, we're just going to slam a rock into it. And then we're just going to call it something innocuous, something that really doesn't have anything to do with this particular playthrough. Let's call it spawning pool, shall we? It's an ocean world, right? So yeah, let's just slam the rock in there. I don't care about the habitability at all. But we'll just make some nice city districts out of it at some point. I think it'll be a good little deal. And there it is. There's the asteroid going straight towards the spawning pool. Oh, that's a delight. I do love to see this sort of thing. It's quite adorable, isn't it? There we go. This planet stands no chance. We're just gonna slam right in there. Yeah, there you go. That's what I want to see. Thank you, planet, for your fast colonization effort, because stuff is gonna go boom. There we go. So it's gonna take about 4 years to get to this point, and right immediately we've got that lithoid crater with a minus 20, just a 20% habitability here, which is not all that great, but doesn't matter. We'll just end up building city districts here. It's a tiny planet, not the end of the world. Now here is our planet of spawning pool. We just set it up, of course, and as you can see, we've got our buried lithoids in the ground here, plus the 2 pops that we got for being, well, they're specialists on the planet. We got them for free, basically, because they're our colonists. But still, you know, this is all fine. But we got these lithoids here. 167 minerals a pop, though. It's pretty expensive. Tell you what we're going to do. We're just going to go to enable courier network here and then make sure that we have this tradition tree full. And then tell you what, we're going to go and add mastery of nature, which reduces our clear blocker cost by yet another 33%. Plus, we get the ability to increase our planet size, at least the amount of districts that are available. And due to these nice mechanics, it basically means that we get our lithoids for free. That's right, we get these rock people completely for free, and that also is the case on these other worlds that we've already nicely set up. At least this was our capital world. We just get these popped for free. So instead of spending 5,000 minerals, we just don't spend anything at all on getting these pops up and running, aside, of course, for the Unity and all the Ascension perk ambitions. The real question is this really worthwhile, though? Because you're only spending it on, like, 1 planet. Well, I've got Spawning Pool 2 coming up as well, so there's that lithoid crater, and we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to pull these pops out of the ground and take it from there. And then, of course, we've got this world here of slamming. We're going to go and get these pops dug out, because the real challenge of lithoids is the fact that they just don't have any good growth modifiers. So there you have it. All the lithoids are out of the ground. This is such a delight. That meteor, the lithoid crater, oh, it's so good. It's so good indeed. And the population is not particularly happy because there's simply no jobs here. Tell you what, we're just gonna go and move all of these pops to somewhere a little bit more useful, shall we? There we go. They're now back on the capital world. But oh no. Okay, well, we got some pops that don't have jobs at the moment. It doesn't really matter. We can just add, say, for instance, a commercial zone or any large building just to keep that up and running. In this particular case, probably a good idea to get some civilian industries because our consumer goods are gone. Now, at this point, you would think, okay, you just moved all those pops off the planet. So what do you do from here on? Well, the lithoid crater may still be there. The habitability may be awful. Doesn't mean that we can't colonize it again. And again. And again. And again. And again. We basically have a way of getting free pops. And this, of course, can get out of control very quickly. So it's a few years later, and things are going pretty swell. It's 2231, and it would appear that I currently have 84 pops available within my empire. And normally you would say, well, yeah, that makes sense. You got all these planets. Well, let's put it this way. Only about 5 of these are active growth planet. All the other ones are either new colonies or spawning pools. You know, we're just moving those out. And of course, if we take a look at our neighbors, they're the standard megacorp, and they've got 47 pops, which means that my economy just blows them out of the water. But at this point, you may be thinking, okay, like you basically destroy the planet, right? You can't really do anything from this moment onwards. Well, you would think so. Let's take. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! I can do this as many times as I want. So I've set aside a couple more worlds just to, you know, spruce things up a little bit. And because we're not actually paying anything for digging out these lithoids, that is great. We got 3 whole worlds that are tiny and pretty much useless to us, especially considering the growth speed of lithoids is absolutely awful. It means that we can just crank out as many pops as we want. It's so much more efficient to slam a rock with 4 free pops into a planet, move them somewhere else, and do it again. Yes. I do love this. This is quite delightful, but how crazy can this really get? Like, how insane can this particular style of gameplay go? Well, remember that pops is growth, and growth means resources, and resources means research, which means that we can grow our technology and our fleets and our economy exceptionally quickly using this approach. Of course, with all of this moving around of pops, we will run into a minor problem, and that is specialists. So if we, for instance, resettle one of these specialists to our capital of Unirock, you will see that immediately this specialist will be unemployed because he's in the wrong strata and there's currently not enough jobs available for him, and we won't get another building slot that the specialist can work in for another 3 pops, which of course is basically how much we can get from a singular world. Now, there is a couple of ways around this. Either we can decide to build a what are they called again? There you go, a commercial zone, because it gives us 5 clerk jobs, which can fill up with specialists, and we get an insane amount of trade value out of that, completely blowing our economy out of the water even more. Or we can go and use the wonders of kinship. Now, kinship is a harmony tradition, which basically means that all stratum pops that are unemployed and will have to move into a lower strata will take less time to be demoted. So, for instance, if we take a look at this here pop that is currently not working as a specialist, he will become a different type of pop somewhere in the next 3 years, which is great for us because it means that we can have all of those delightful districts filled up really quickly. Such a joy. Now that the Galactic community has been formed, there is all sorts of fun things that we have. First of all, we are not by far not the largest empire on the map, and there's a couple more floating around that have more power in terms of space, but definitely not in economy. Look at that. We are 1.1k here with the joys of the galactic community, and that has mostly to do with our economy as well as our pops. We get 373 diplomatic weight from pops, as well as 280 from our economy. Our next door neighbor in terms of strength is not even half that in terms of economy, and well, pops, it's getting closer, but yeah, I don't know, what kind of empire is this? Harmonious Collective? Yeah, that makes sense. Also, they're in a federation. But as Lithoids, we should not be in this position right now. We should definitely not have the ability to outproduce everybody. But I'm sure we can get crazier. Oh, yes. 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 We're now about 120 years into the game. As you can see, we are a relatively compact empire completely stationed around a single ecumenopolis that is just cranking out the research. However, we are also with 700 pops here that are all rock people. Now, I would like to remind you that Lithoids do have that pop growth speed malice, but thankfully, we have managed to get 4 of these wonderful colonies here that we can just very quickly set up to basically spawn infinite free pops, which is exactly what we're going to continue to do. For some reason, sometimes they spawn 3. I've also seen situations where there's 4 buried lithoids. The standard is 2, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. But yeah, I also had to roll back to a 1 version back because for some reason the game really did not like me basically filling this entire bit full with lithoid craters and basically nuking the habitability here to crazy amounts. So yeah, apparently the game was underflowing and the current version really did not like that, so I had to roll back to the current release version rather than the patch, which also removes all sorts of cool like buried lithoids icons and that sort of thing, which is a bit of a shame. So what does this translate to? Well, it translates to me basically being able to overthrow anybody nearby. I can build megastructures galore without having any issues. And on top of that, for every single lithoid that I unbury from these worlds, such as these ones over here. Did I actually release these already? No, we're just gonna release those. Basically, for every single one that I move out, I can just throw them onto our ecumenopolis. They have more than enough jobs open over there, and once that is done, we'll just throw out yet another colony ship. It's actually kind of ridiculous how good it is. For 500 minerals every single time, that's the way to go. Also, I went for robots because, you know, rocks need cybernetic implants for some reason. I thought that was pretty hilarious as a thing that you could do. But yeah, pretty interesting. You can do all sorts of insane things with asteroids. Just keep on throwing them at other planets and do really stupid stuff. Because lithoids with only, well, 5 or 6 active planets at this point should not have this many pops. Just to illustrate how this actually works then, it grows here at wow, 0.24 per month on this particular place. It's probably not a good place to do it here. Plus 14 a month. So that's 1 pop a year, at least on some of these other worlds that have a lot of space available. This one, it's a little bit less, like it's plus 4. It would take 2 years or around 20 months to get a single pop grown. With this particular setup, you can go ahead and colonize a planet in under 2 years, then unbury the lithoids there and just redistribute them. On top of that, I would like to point out that at this point, even though we're 120 years in, I've got so much diplomatic weight because of our population, our insane research, as well as our fleet, which is part of that insane research. We are effectively controlling the entire Galactic Council. We almost have 18,000 diplomatic weight, and we can literally do as we want. And that right there is the power of hilariously insane lithoids. With infinite pops, of course. Now, is this the optimal way of doing this? Absolutely not. There is far crazier ways that you can do this in terms of getting more and more pops. Just having an insane amount of planets that just feed resources into your empire all the time. Of course, you need to balance at some point, because at some point you're going to be like, well, I could just spend the next 2 years getting enough pops to fill an entire Ringworld District of researchers, which, by the way, is one thing that you can do here, or you're just going to colonize a world and then take it from there. Personally, the Ringworld approach to me is pretty much preferred. But still, what are you going to do? The free pops, they're infinite. It is amazing. I want to thank my patrons for making this video possible. If it wasn't for you, I would not be able to, you know, make these sort of things and sit down for a whole day and basically be like, hey, how could I abuse the ever-loving hell out of this? And I'm pretty sure that it's going to get patched in the near future as well. Oh boy, you can thank me for that later. In the meantime, though, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you want to get involved in the Patreon, feel free to click the link below. Lithoids is part of the Lithoids expansion, ironically enough. So Calamitous Birth, you need Lithoids for it, so I guess that kind of makes sense. If you don't have it, you want to try this out, there's a link down in the description. We'll take you down to the Paradox store and you can acquire the expansion or the pack there, and I get a cut from that as well. So it supports the channel directly in these most of difficult times. If you are currently feeling those difficult times, I know it's really hard out there. I know that you can't go out and say, hey, ASpec, here's a buck for the Patreon. That's perfectly fine. What you can do, though, is the following. My little girl is turning 1 year old next month, and she will not have a birthday party with her little friends because we are in quarantine, which is a shame. Now, in the description below is an address to my P.O. box that I've had for quite some time, but never really released to anybody. If you want to be a kind person, send my little girl a happy birthday card. You don't even need to put anything inside of it. Just happy birthday is more than enough, and that's all I can ask from you. And if I get more than enough, I will probably do a video showcasing them as well. I'm already not looking forward to the day I have to go to the post office and pick up a giant bag of mail, but we will see. In the meantime, though, I want to thank you all so much for watching. This has been the Infinite Lithoids exploit, soon to be patched, no doubt. And until next time, take care of yourselves. And as always, infinite lithoids are like infinite monkeys. As soon as you start them putting behind the typewriters, they will type you up Shakespeare sooner or later. That ending made no sense.